Hi everyone, welcome to the Techangles Podcast, where we explore the future of software development and how AI is transforming the way we build applications. I'm Mahendra and I'm joined today by my fellow developers Anas and Sabir. We are the team behind Codebenders, an AI-powered platform designed to take your software ideas from concept to deployment faster and smarter than ever before. Today's episode is all about a topic that's getting a lot of buzz: vibe coding, the trend of letting AI generate code based on intuition and prompts, and why this approach might be riskier than it seems. But first, let us set the stage with a quote from Linus Torvalds, the creator of Linux. He once asked, and I ask you guys, would you trust flying in an airplane for which all the code was generated by AI?
I mean, no, for sure, no.
No, I mean, especially after what has happened with Boeing 737 MAX, I would not.
So it's a question that really makes you think about the stakes when it comes to software quality and reliability, right? But again, what exactly is vibe coding? So the term popularized by Andre Karpathy is about prompting your way through software development, letting AI generate most or all of the code, often without deeply understanding or validating what's produced. It's an appealing shortcut, especially for non-developers or founders looking to move fast. But is it really the future or a dangerous illusion?
So, from what I see, white coding was, as you said, it's a path for non-developers to become developers. I see there are two kinds of camps basically who really like white coding. The first is those indie hackers. These people have a very good business acumen, but they are limited by the technical know-hows. So if they have an idea, for them to be able to test it and build a business out of it, they would probably need to hire a technical co-founder or a technical team of which they have no idea. That limitation has now been removed because of white code. So what they can now do is build a prototype instantly and go and test them. So those people are making a lot of noise about how good vibe coding is and how vibe coding is the future. But anybody who builds serious software, they are not really as excited and they're extremely skeptical about it.
Yeah, how I would like to see it is, let's take it from a human perspective. Why would a human being like something like vibe coding, right? So, what we actually crave is for novelty, and we want quick reward for it, right? And vibe coding, I feel it is a means of getting that quick reward, and you just ask it, and then it gives you a finished product, maybe a prototype, yeah. But it rewards you, right?
Like a dopamine.
Exactly, yeah. And so people that is where I feel that people really get attached to it, and maybe later on they would like lose that sort of yeah.
Creating something has a hype.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So again, before we get into the pros and cons, let us talk about why we build Codebenders.
So the reason why Codebenders exist is because we serve to the enterprise customers. And the requirements of enterprise software are fundamentally different from what basic prototyping is. Enterprise software is complex, it has microservice architecture, and you have to give a lot of, you need to care a lot about security and privacy and all those things. So, Codebenders exist because we are here to serve enterprise customers, leverage the full power of AI in their application development lifecycle.
Yeah. So I also feel that traditional software development is complex, right? It is slow. It requires deep expertise at every stage. With Codebenders, our goal is to use AI to streamline the process from requirements to deployment, but always with the developer in control. Okay, so now let's kick things off. Anas, why do you think vibe coding has become so popular?
Right, as I said earlier, right? So people crave for these sort of quick rewards, and vibe coding is a means to get that, right? And there are all of these people who, as Savil said, that okay, they are indie hackers and they don't have access to this entire knowledge, and then they could use AI and sort of get a prototype and then get a unfinished product.
And the learning curve has suddenly decreased or it has become close to zero. So previously, if you wanted to build a full stack application, you need to know at least two different languages and you need to understand how software works, how everything interacts with each other. Now you just need to know English and you just need to ask what you want to build and that gets done.
So do you think like is it just the promise of speed, or is there something deeper at play?
Uh,
Um, yeah, a lot of people. There's also this kind of push where we always try to replace, try to automate a lot of stuff. And I feel that what we are trying to do is okay. We are trying to. Everyone, I don't know, for some reason wants to replace software developers. But when we also look at that also captures a lot of people's attention when we say okay, we're going to replace software developers. But then you also see a lot of people using it. Like maybe you take it, you take the marketing people, and then you say talk about sales or generating content. A lot of that becomes now AI generated, right? So it's not just development as such. A lot of areas I feel would be affected by it. But then yeah.
So Sabil, do you agree with Anas, or do you see other reasons why people are drawn to this approach?
So obviously, the entry barrier has reduced significantly. That is the charm of that program. So, and the time it takes to achieve something has become significantly less. But although you have these benefits, there are far greater number of challenges that you will face with white coding.
So for me also, I think it is the allure of skipping the learning curve, as you mentioned, and getting instant results, as you mentioned. But as we have seen, that can come at a cost. So, Anas and Sabir. So one of the biggest criticism of white coding is the loss of understanding and control. So if you're just accepting whatever the AI gives you, right? So how do you know your application is secure and maintainable?
You want to answer that?
So I'll come from a different perspective. So I have been developing long before ChatGPT had come up. So I understand how software was built before ChatGPT was there and how ChatGPT is being. One of the biggest areas where software development has really improved and changed is in debug. Previously, when we would face a bug, we would have to read Stack Overflow, we would have to read multiple websites, GitHub issues, and that would really force us to understand what is the root cause of this. In doing so, a lot of our core concepts would get clarified, and so many areas would improve, and we would get a much deeper and nuanced understanding of things. But what has happened now is the moment you get a bug, many people I know do not even read what the bug is. They just simply copy it, paste it in an LLM, and they just ask for a solution and they fix it. But this will lead to very disastrous consequences because you don't know what is actually happening. That would obviously lead where you would not become a better developer or a programmer. But at the same time, tomorrow when something has to change or something gets broken down, you have zero clue where to begin.
So Anas, on the same lines, so have you seen any real world examples where people have built their code using AI and deployed, and it has led to some issues?
Yeah, a lot of examples actually. Yeah, particularly on social media, we all see such examples. So there was this one case where someone actually followed the entire procedure described to them using AI, and then they were able to deploy an application, and they were kind of making some money. And then later onwards, they started facing issues, and they kind of blamed it on the users instead of identifying what the cause was. Yeah.
The SQL injections and the open API keys getting
And
mixed up.
and there are also these nuances, I would say, not nuances, these details that people who wipe code don't actually know to focus on. So let's say you have an API key and you put it on the front end. So differentiating between putting it on the front end or on the back end, what are the consequences of doing this? So if you put it on the front end, it gets exposed to the entire world. So these kind of details people don't focus on. I think that AI is going to replace it.
But in order for you to know that, I feel you at least need to know the basics of software engineering.
Right.
If you have zero idea how software works, how would you know what the AI is generating? Is it correct or not?
What is your take on the risks around maintainability and technical debt when teams tend to rely too heavily on the AI?
I would, in fact, argue, and I've been seeing this in various organizations, that your technical debt would increase at least by a factor of two. The reason for that is quite simple. When you don't understand the code that is getting generated and getting deployed, tomorrow if you have to make a minor change, you have zero clue where to start. And God forbid something breaks down, your application crashes. You have no idea. And for anybody who's done some amount of software development would understand that writing your own code from scratch is a lot easier compared to reading somebody else's code and figuring out what is it that they're trying to do. So in fact, you would take double the amount of time in order to fix something very small and minor.
Adding to this, I also would advise of the people who are getting into this career, right, for them to not use AI as much as they rely on, so that okay they develop this sort of problem solving skills.
I have a contrary view to this. You know, they should use a lot of AI wherever possible, but you need to understand what is happening.
Sure, yeah,
But if you're just copying and pasting what it has given, it might work temporarily and you would not care, okay, it is working. If it ain't broke, why fix it? You should not have this mentality where
So the
AI
gist is
assistant.
that the a real learning comes from debugging, understanding, and multiple iterations.
right.
100%.
So some people also argue that vibe coding is fine for quick prototyping and weekend projects, but it doesn't help you grow as a developer. Would you agree to this?
100%. As you just mentioned, real skill comes from debugging, trying and fixing an issue for all night long, 24 hours straight. But I think there's a caveat in that. Even prototyping, small basic applications and monolith code, they can be prototyped and maybe in a few cases it works well. But as the application keeps getting complex and as your code base becomes bigger and bigger, even then the prototyping would fail.
Right. You also have these cases scenarios where okay, you have a single monolith application ready now, and now you want to modify that, and then the AI entirely fails at bringing that change into the
It
application.
hallucinates like crazy and
Yeah.
it is incapable of doing that.
Right.
It is
So-
incapable of modifying the same code that it has written. That's the biggest drawback.
So continuing on this, what's your take on the long-term impact of vibe coding or assisted coding on the skills of developers or on the new generation of developers that is coming?
It depends again purely on how they are using this technology. So any technology that comes, you can either use it to leapfrog into new things. For example, because of AI, now it is much easier for you to understand and comprehend the concepts that are present. Previously, why is this function written this way? Why is this library used this way? To understand that, you would have to read about 10 websites just to get an understanding of what the hell is happening. But now, you could just ask an LLM and you would get a crystal clear understanding of what is happening. So, it purely depends upon the developer or the user, how he or she intends to use this technology.
Yeah. So there is one problem that I think that would be caused from this. So looking at different libraries, it also teaches you the skill of what you want to look for. So I don't think okay, you just go in AI and then you ask a question, and you kind of get an idea of what to get, but then you're not reading the skill of okay, what you want to look for, and then so that helps in actually also debugging, right? So when you're debugging, you would know okay, what is the source of the problem. So that way, like using heavily relying on AI, I feel that skill is not trained, right?
So it is an interesting take on this. So what I feel is with the rise of LLMs and vibe coding, there are three types of developers that are emerging. I call them category A, B, and C. So category A are old schoolers who believe that real developers write all of their own code. They don't they don't rely on LLMs or AI for anything. Then there is category B. Category B are the blind believers. They accept whatever AI gives them. They just take it without understanding the code. And what they do is they risk bugs and security concerns. And there is category C. Category C are balanced developers, but right, who use AI generated code, but always review, understand, and validate the code before any sort of integration. So I believe that category C is the right approach, leveraging AI as a powerful tool while maintaining full responsibility and control over the code quality. So Sabine, so do you see these categories too, or do you have a different take on this?
No, I 100% agree about whatever you just said. For type A coders, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're not leveraging such a powerful technology, wherein you could get 10x the amount of work that you usually do in the same time frame. And category B is a very wrong way to go about things because you're actually pulling yourself back. And I think what you've mentioned about type C, we at Codebenders are doing something really similar, wherein we are talking about, how vibe coding is a very wrong approach to software development, where you're leveraging the power of AI. So we are thinking of something called as ace coding, which is fundamentally different from what vibe coding is. So more on that in days to come.
Yeah, I have some, I think, along the same lines. But yeah, what I also think is that, okay, these type A ones, they also be very innovative because they do a lot of thinking. And if they would move on to type C, they would be 100x developers, like it is said in the morning, right? But I feel a lot of the next generation that's coming along, right? If you have younger siblings, they are moving towards the type B role, where they heavily rely on AI to generate a lot of their assignments. Uh, if they know that, okay, this is not going to help me, yeah, they could become type C ones, right? But I feel the next generation, they're sort of regressing backwards, right? Because they're heavily relying on AI.
So
Yeah.
just to sum it up, Mahendra, I think we are fundamentally talking about a paradigm shift in how software is being written or how applications are being developed. It is no longer where you learn every small detail of software, but you fundamentally take a different approach wherein you learn how to harness AI as a technology, where you can increase your efficiency, where you can reduce your software development cycle times. So I think that's a new paradigm, which is very interesting. And it's very, very new right now. So we'll have to wait and see how this evolves. But one thing is for sure, uh, type A is definitely going to be obsolete. Type B would not be useful to anybody. But type C, this would certainly evolve into something very different. How we all learned software engineering or coding in our college days would be very, very different to how people would learn software engineering in the future.
And I also feel that it is very important to have this taught to them that, okay, this is the difference. Don't rely on it very heavily. So use it for certain tasks and not use it for everything. Yeah, that sort of differentiation has to be taught to them. That's what I yes.
So one analogy that was given to me was in the old days, the engineering drawings would be conducted by pencil and scales, and they would roll those chart papers and they would carry all that. Now, because of technology, they are using AutoCAD to do the same thing. They are doing it very, very differently. Similarly, I firmly believe, and we firmly at Codebenders believe, how we approach software engineering, how we develop applications, would transform in a very similar way where you're having a fundamentally different approach.
So you guys spoke about habits, right? maybe of students, maybe of developers. So, do you think that some sort of scrutiny in the practices they follow would help?
Yes, uh, there has to be a way, a mechanism where a human is able to certify that okay, the code that has been generated is correct and it is valid and everything is working together. But how do you make something like that extremely simple for a developer who is developing this software? That's the biggest challenge that we face. Everybody knows, everybody has access to tools like Claude, they have access to tools like Cursor, but they're still not able to do what we have just discussed.
Right.
And we need a mechanism wherein developers, you should make the life of a developer so easy that all the hard work has to be done by AI, all the critical work has to be done by the human.
So, now this would be a good segue for Codebenders, right? So, this is why Codebenders is different. We are not encouraging blind trust on AI.
100%. See, Codebenders, as we said, we are here to challenge vibe coding. We don't believe vibe coding is the correct approach, especially for enterprises where security, privacy, and reliability are extremely important for any enterprise application. You cannot screw around in areas like these. It is extremely important that you get everything right 100%. There's no chance of even 99.99%. So, how you approach software development here, it becomes very, very different. So, at Codebenders, we are thinking from first principles in terms of how can we increase productivity, how can we decrease the software development life cycles while providing, while having extremely reliable, bug-free, and a secure code base. So the promise that we have is, the number of engineers that would be needed to develop some mission critical application also, that would be reduced by a factor of 10 at least. And at the same time, if it would take you a few months to get the application done, our aim is to get it under a couple of hours at most.
So, I think somewhat good news for developers, right? The platform is not about replacing developers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what it? So, can you please tell us something about the platform, like how it helps the developers, how it streamlines the software development process or life cycle?
Right. So there is a large process, a long process that goes on, right? So you gather a lot of as much information as possible from the user, and you try to put that into code, right? You gather user stories, and then you gather epics, and then you build features from that, and you ensure that each of these features are actually implemented within the application, right? So our platform takes care of that, and then that software that has been built is also then deployed so that the developer can actually look at it and then make the finishing touches. Right? You want to add?
Yeah, adding to what MS just said. First of all, our platform is not for somebody who is unfamiliar with software engineering. So we are not catering to those people. So our platform is designed for software engineers, but we want to take a bulk of their responsibilities. As Anas said, you would start with a PRD document. Our platform would, try and understand, and it would do it would generate a lot of your boilerplate code. It would also help you generate the architecture. It would also help you, it would suggest you features that you might have missed, or it can suggest you a few things, that would make the application better. But at every single touch point, you would have a human in the loop who would be conveyed all of this information in a very, very simple, clear, concise, understandable manner, wherein you could just see, and at no point would you feel that you are losing the grip of your steering wheel. You are the man or woman in charge on the driving seat. You know at every single stage how your application development is progressing from one step to another. And one core feature of our platform is that we have system design integrated into our application. Developing code is difficult, but what is even more difficult is getting the right system architecture. Developing right kind of microservices that are scalable, secure, reliable, and that would meet all the industry standards. That heavy lifting is also done by us, but would be validated at the end of the day by the human.
So in short, like Codebenders would provide transparency, you would keep your developers involved while ensuring the quality as well.
100%.
So now let us open it up a bit, like for those listening. So guys, have you tried vibe coding? If yes, did it live up to the hype, or did you run into the same issues we are discussing? Please let us know through the comments. So again, I'm coming back to it. Anas, what would make you trust an AI generated code base for a mission critical application?
It's a tough question. What do you think, Sabila?
I think if it is generated by Codebenders, I would definitely interested. I tell you the reason also. We all have tried vibe coding, and our experience has been it's like that one hit wonder kid. It impresses you for the first time, but then you are interacting with it, and the shallowness becomes clearly evident as time progresses. For small applications, for a 1 or 2 page applications, where you are, just giving a prompt, it is doing really well. But as the application keeps getting bigger, it just doesn't work. You take Bolt, you take Cursor, you can also take Google's Fire Studio. None of these applications have been able to deploy a moderately complex application.
That is a very bold statement, right?
It doesn't.
You're saying that they're not scalable.
Can I add to that as well? So I've actually tried these tools, right? And to some extent, or not to some extent, they also claim to be prototype developers. And then even the prototype that they develop, with my experience, so what I've asked it to do, it doesn't actually generate a very viable product, right? And even when you ask it to refine it, and it becomes actually worse than what we want it to be, right?
And the reason for that, of course, we all experience that. There's a certain way that you talk to an animal, and it comes after so many iterations. So the problem with vibe is that everybody has a different vibe. Everybody talks to an LLM in a particular way. Somebody says, please, my life depends on it, or my son will get kidnapped if you don't write the correct code. That is not the way to generate correct enterprise grade code or a code that works. You really need to have the right context. You need to understand what exactly is it that you need to generate, and how do you tell an LLM, look, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So, in essence, if I can get a bit technical, you need to ensure that your context is really, really specific, and that is very hard to do. You can't just say, one very good example or an analogy would be, how would you talk to somebody, a small child, or somebody who has no idea about this field, or a 5-year-old? You are assuming in your mind that this child would know, okay, there are a few things like, okay, this is a given, this is like a basic assumption. Why are these prototypes failing? Why is Cursor, why is Bolt, why is even Fire Studio not living up to the expectation? Because the users who interact with it, they try and talk to it like it's a junior developer, wherein they see, okay, these are a few things that are understood, self-explanatory. This is like a basic thing, you should at least know this. But an LLM does not know that. Yes. You will have to be extremely specific for it. That is where we've concentrated all of our energies, and like we had discussed, the concept of ACE engineering, ACE coding, it deals exactly with this. Our goal is to move from a probabilistic realm into a deterministic realm. What I mean by that is that every time we generate a code, we shouldn't have that tinker of doubt in our hearts. Okay, maybe this code might fail. Every time the code that we generate, we are 100% sure that this is, we get the correct one. Even if it generates bad code, we have several layers of checking mechanisms and validation mechanisms that will give us feedback. And at the end, we ensure that the code that we generate is 100%. And this is where we are fundamentally different from all these things in the market.
So this calls up for another episode wherein we discuss how we do prompt engineering, right? Because we spoke a lot about it. To wrap up, vibe coding might sound like the future, but remember, software engineering is about more than just code. It is about understanding, control, and responsibility. At Codebenders, we believe in empowering developers, not replacing them. Our AI is here to help you build better, faster, and smarter without losing sight of what makes great software. So, before we close all this, Asabil, do you have any closing remarks?
My closing remarks would be don't do vibe engineering or vibe coding, do ace coding. We've started it. I hope many other companies would enter into this domain because for a given problem, if there are multiple people trying to find solutions, there would be different approaches, and this would be good for the whole community as a whole. This area has to evolve, but it would not happen with vibe coding. We are trying something fundamentally different, and I hope big players like Google, Microsoft do follow into this domain where achieving enterprise grade code bases are no longer a fantasy, but a reality that we all can take for granted.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say that vibe coding is actually a pretty good thing, and things are actually changing really fast, right? And people are experimenting with different architectures to meet with the limitations of current AI, current LLMs, right? And I think that we would actually get there one day. Not very soon, maybe. But yeah, I don't think that our jobs would be taken away. I don't think they actually threaten us. I think we would be making use of these tools and to become, let's say you're 10x right now, we become 100x later onwards. We'll be there. Yeah, that's what I think.
So I believe we understand the goods and bads of vibe coding, and we also understand that how other solutions in the market do not cater to enterprises. That is why we decided to build Codebenders, which is catered towards enterprises. So again, thank you, Anas and Sabil, for joining me today, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. If you want to see how Codebenders can transform your development process, check out our platform and let us know what you think.
If you want to be amazed and see how magic looks like, you should definitely try out.
And don't forget to subscribe for more episodes. We'll see you next time on the Techangles Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.